Hi everyone, this is Dan, and I'm going to be applying Cotter's Choosing Strategies for Change to my organization, which is sliding towards ever increasing rates of expansion, increasing budgets, increasing complexity of the work on the ground, and that's really not in line with our vision. And so the need for change is very urgent, and I found that this reading was particularly important and relevant, and I may even use this for my work. So let's talk about what we're going to do. I'm going to be applying the theory of change from Cotter and Schlesinger to inform recommendations about what I think we should do. So I'm going to talk through the theory of change. I'm going to provide background about my organization and what's going on, and really talk about why we need to change and why it's desired, and then laying out those steps for what that's going to look like. So Cotter and Schlesinger say that there are really 4 steps to lead a successful change effort. You're going to assess the situation and the way forward, really identify who's going to resist that change and what to do about it. Given the urgency and the amount of resistance that you anticipate, you select a change strategy, and then you're going to implement that strategy and monitor as it goes. So just briefly, and I'm sure you're all familiar with the different approaches, it's always a combination of approaches that they recommend using when leaders or managers pick just one approach, like education, or trying to get everyone to involve themselves through participation, or negotiating agreements and incentivizing people so that they don't resist change. They often fall flat. It's often when different pieces of those approaches are combined, custom tailored to whatever the organization's needs are, that they can be successful. And I'm going to talk about why I think that in our case, really a combination of education and facilitation is going to help us lead that change effort. Okay, so this is complex, but just to give the very basic overview, I actually work for 2 organizations at the same time that mutually support one another, where the top organization, Community Empowerment Solutions, or CE Solutions, is a nonprofit, and they do what could best be described as community development work in Latin America. And they work in tandem with a program provider, an LLC, based out of the United States called Social Entrepreneur Corps, which leads all kinds of what are called impact and immersion programs abroad. Students go abroad and they learn about particularly social entrepreneurship, which is the approach that we take to doing work in those communities. The money that's generated through that program gets recycled back into the CE Solutions ongoing operations. So in that way, we are constantly chasing down grants and donations, and that keeps both organizations sustainable. So our vision is really about 2 things. We innovate and we empower, or at least that's what we aim to do. So we work in communities in those countries to design, test, implement all kinds of cool technologies and solutions that address rural development needs. So just like you see in that picture below, we work with a autorefractor that can be attached to an iPhone or a smartphone and do simple eye exams in very rural communities and get old people, get kids, get adults glasses that normally wouldn't have access to that kind of technology. And so the idea there is that we're working with social entrepreneurs, community leaders on the ground to train them in how to use this technology, help them to start their own social enterprise, reaching those communities, creating access to life-changing products and services like getting glasses, and that they generate income on the side. So really cool work, and students, when they come down, they also study this and do a little bit of volunteer work on the side. But the really important takeaway is that we are a proof of concept organization. So the idea here is not to get bigger and bigger and bigger, reach more and more communities. We're really just trying to show other organizations, governments, the world, that this model works, that these technologies are valuable, that we're going to take the risk and go out into these communities and do it first and lead the way when it comes to innovation. And then the empowerment aspect comes in because we're really working with these communities, having them help us to identify what are their key needs and how we can best address those with our networks and our contacts when it comes to the world of developing cool and cutting edge technologies. So we're not trying to get bigger, we're just trying to work smarter. The problem, of course, is that like many organizations, like the Blob, we are growing no matter what, and no matter what we seem to do. And what ends up happening is that many people on our teams, especially kind of like the new hires, kind of the low skill, just out of college, regional coordinators from the United States that go to these countries and work with us, they really see success in terms of growth, like the number of products that are sold by entrepreneurs, like pairs of glasses that are sold, for example, or the amount of money that's generated from that. And these are not outcomes. We don't really care how many glasses we sell, how many communities we reach. It's really about the outcomes for those communities that we do reach. Are their lives measurably better? Are we really digging in and understanding what their needs are and helping them to solve those needs? Is their quality of life improved after an intervention? And there's a disconnect between what the leadership team, at the global level sees as the goal and what a lot of the country teams see as the vision and the goal, which is to keep reaching as many people as possible. And the consequence is that we're becoming less responsive, we're becoming bloated as an organization, we're having trouble paying for everything, and it's really serious that we have, as I'll get into in a bit, a total disconnect, a breakdown when it comes to what we're even trying to accomplish, and if it's not working out, what the way forward is. So let's use Cotter to help chart a possible strategy for change. Step one would be to do an organizational analysis, and I've alluded to what that would look like. But three basic questions are: how important is the problem? What the recommended speed is for addressing that problem, and kind of what those changes look like. So, I think the problem is really important. And if we don't get this right, we're not even working towards our shared vision. And we're going to probably have zero or negative cash flow by the end of the year, with maintaining all of these kind of expat, American and European coordinators in these different countries that are not contributing valuably to the organization, in the sense that we're not really striving to reach as many communities as possible, despite what some of them may think. And it may have been a mistake to grow this quickly. What we really need to do is just kind of focus in on those communities where we have those core relationships with the people that we most can count on. So those country leaders, kind of like a country director, the regional or local teams. So those would be, the Guatemalan leaders in Guatemala, the Dominican leaders in the Dominican Republic, the Ecuadorian leaders in Ecuador. Those are our local leadership teams that we have full time. We need them to step up to take on more responsibility and work without the direct support as much as they have done with our kind of global expat team. And I think it's urgent. They need to do this quickly by the end of the year, for sure. So who's going to resist the change? Well, I think in particular, it's those local leaders. So the Guatemalan leaders, the Haitian leaders that have real relationships and enjoy that support of the global team. That many of them feel like maybe they're not ready to work on their own, which I disagree. I think that after a number of years, they certainly are ready to become leaders in their own right, and that I think many do not realize that our expectations for their work are not tied to outputs. So there is no minimum number of communities that they need to reach or entrepreneurs that they need to train. It's just that they need to be, making an honest and concerted effort to reach those communities where they do work and really dig down and identify those needs and address them systematically. So there is no minimum effort or quantity of work that we're requiring. And I think if that can get communicated and addressed, the resistance to change by feeling like they need to have expat staff on hand to help them will diminish significantly. So the people who are in charge of this are me, two other women, and the founder of the organization. So the four of us make up the kind of, what do we call, the executive leadership group, ELG, and we're the ones who are designing this, and we probably are the ones most empowered to see this change through. But of course, it's not something that we're going to ram through. We need to get buy-in from the country leaders. We need to understand exactly what the issues are and how best to proceed. So, as Cotter points out, the more urgent the need, the quicker you need to go. And we certainly do fall on, if the middle of the spectrum is in between all of those characteristics, we're closer to the fast end. But I do still think that through a combination of educating the different country teams about really what our vision is and what it is that we're trying to accomplish in the end, I just think that we have lost that along the way. And to really remind people through a number of different mediums and get them to think about and participate in this conversation about the fact that when we lead, when we do our best work, is when we are focusing on a couple of core communities and really testing out these amazing breakthrough technologies and not getting caught up in running around and trying to reach as many people as possible, but just making a solid difference in a few key areas and showing others that this model, these technologies can work. So the education is key. And then the facilitation, the training that's going to go along with that is just as important, because I think that so much of the way that work processes are going right now is geared towards outputs. So reaching greater and greater numbers of people, importing greater and greater numbers of products in order to do outreach and train new entrepreneurs and increase the impact that way. And that's not what we want. We want to realign the work with our vision and facilitating trainings that focuses on things that have more to do with doing really great community needs assessments, of community workshops and focus groups, of understanding how we can best address those needs. That's really where we're falling short, and I think that's where we can best dedicate our energy. Yeah, and then finally, once this is implemented, we got to monitor it, and I'm sure there'll be consequences that I can't foresee. But the key here is that if we don't do this, if we don't change, we're going to run out of money by the end of the year. We're not even working towards our vision as it is right now, and we may lose more people that are passionate and dedicated about this work in the long run by being afraid to implement this change. So it is necessary, it is important, and it is something that I want to see happen. So I'm looking forward to leading this, and I think Cotter's strategy here is going to be very helpful.
Okay, so I'll leave it there. I think that I would change a number of things about that narration.